Hey everyone! Today we're going to put together a very beautiful, very stylish, highly innovative, I think, the bracelet clasp especially. We're going to be putting this bracelet together and we're going to do it with some bead stringing and some crimping and pearlesque chain. So there's a medley of wonderful materials that we'll be using as well as techniques in today's project. And I just cannot wait to get started. I want to introduce you to myself. My name is Nilay Patel. I'm the owner, designer, and educator here at SilverSilk and more. And my job is to bring you guys really fun, exciting ideas using my product, SilverSilk. You can catch this product and the brand in several different places. First, you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is at SilverSilk and more. And there I post a lot of pictures, tutorials, reels, you name it, for inspiration. All kinds of fun stuff there to look at. So please do follow me there. You can also check me out on the Silkies Facebook group. There we have a collective group of, oh gosh, I think we're around 3,000 now, of SilverSilk creators, enthusiasts that just enjoy creating with SilverSilk and posting their work to our group that is ever growing. And boy, is it inspiring. You can also, for sure, check me out on YouTube and give this video a big like and thumbs up, and do subscribe to the channel. On YouTube, you can find a giant library of videos that have all kinds of tutorials that range between the different lines of SilverSilk. So it's a great resource if you're looking for even more tutorials and content like this. So let's get started with today's project, and we'll just roll right into our tutorial. All right, so the first thing I want to cover is the materials, because there's not a lot, which is great because I like making designs out of nothing. And then whenever it's all put together, it's like, wow, right? That's the effect that we're going for. So first is we'll need some seed beads. These are size 8 seed beads in a beautiful matte brown finish. Okay, and I've got about 35 of those. Next, I have some rondelles. These are about 8 millimeters, give or take, in size. Actually, I say 8 millimeters, but I think they're probably closer to 6. They're itty bitty tiny beads. But of course, if you wanted to use 8 millimeter beads, that's totally up to you. I think that would make an extravagant design for sure and would still work with this design. But in this tutorial, I'm just using 6 millimeter rondelles here these are also a beautiful matte yellow, kind of a mustard yellow almost, which goes with that sort of honey bee theme, and will work out really well with this design, especially the button that I'm about to show you, which is of a bee. Isn't that super cool? This came from Tierra cast, and I really love a good stylized bee. It just is so pretty, very well made. And there you could see the button bottom there, and I think this is just an excellent component to use for this design. I've also got some other bee items here. Of course, you got to have a flower for the bees to pollinate, and then a little baby bee here as a secondary charm. So we're going to be using that at the end here, as well as these jump rings. These are about 6 millimeter jump rings. These and my other findings, which I'll actually point right out, these double-strand end caps, are dark rhodium, that's the color, and they have a brass core and have a very high quality dark rhodium plating. So the brass core helps to give it very, just really good structure. The hold on the crimp is just phenomenal. It's not going to go anywhere. Sometimes we worry about different types of metals because metals tend to be softer than others. But with the brass core, and because of the high quality plating, you can definitely be ensured that your crimp is not going to go anywhere. That's one of my favorite things about these particular findings, but also because they work so perfectly with SilverSilk. In this case, we'll need 2 double-strand end caps, which look like this. They have 2 channels, and each of my end caps and each of those channels have little grooves or teeth inside of it that grasp onto the chain once you close it. So therefore, you don't need any glue or special tools to crimp them. You simply just need to have a pair of wide-nosed pliers to crimp it, and that's pretty much it. And speaking of SilverSilk, this is pearlesque chain that I'll be using in today's project. So what makes it pearlesque is the fact that this chain has a interior rainbow tinsel, sort of an iridescent tinsel that gives it a flash that's been knitted with the wire, and it just gives a nice pearlesque finish, something that's very of that shell sort of iridescence quality to it. And this one happens to be the antique copper, solid antique copper in pearlesque chain. And it's super shiny and very pretty. And it's similar to antique copper capture chain if you're familiar with the SilverSilk lines. But this just has that extra pizzazz to it because of the pearlesque touch. So I'm excited to use that. And lastly, we'll need some bead stringing wire. I have this in a citrine color. I won't be using all of this, of course. You'll probably just need about a foot. I think I just took this right off the spool and I just had a little bit left. And I don't like wasting any of my beading wire if I can avoid it. So I'm going to work off of the bigger strand here. Along with bead stringing wire, you do need good quality crimps. So I have those here. These are dark rhodium 2mm crimps. Or actually, I think on their website, which is Softflex Company, they call it gunmetal. So these gunmetal crimps are going to pair well with their citrine beading wire. So that's about all the materials that I need. Tools-wise, you'll just need a few different things. I'm going to be using my magical crimpers. Love these things. They have a single divot for creating our crimp, which I will for sure be showing you later in this tutorial. Otherwise, you need a pair of wide nose pliers, as I mentioned earlier, to crimp our findings. These happen to have a coating of Tool Magic on it. Tool Magic turns the tips of these into rubberized tips, sort of like nylon jaw pliers, but much, much more grippy, for the lack of a better word. They're easier to grip the findings with than the nylon jaw pliers. You can certainly use nylon jaw pliers to close your endings, but I tend to love this stuff. The rubberized tip gives a nice grip with it, as I mentioned. Plus, it protects it from getting any marring or abrasion that might happen as you close this little crimp over your chain. So I recommend, if you have the opportunity, to grab some Tool Magic and just dip your pliers into it. Once you've done that, you can wait about 24 hours before using them, and they are ready to go. Okay, otherwise, I just have a standard pair of chain nose pliers and some cutters. So these are from Lindstrom, and I just love these little cutters. I've had them for a very long time, I think about 15 years, and they've just cut through all the things and still managed to stay sharp. So I am just in love with them. Keep them around, right? All right, so the first thing I need to do is create my pattern for my beaded bracelet here. So what I'm going to do is start by stringing a rondelle, and I'm going to do a pattern of, 3 seed beads. 1, 2, 3. Up until the end here. And as far as how many rondelles to have, let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 13 will fit a smaller wrist, and the bracelet size should be just around 7 inches, probably a little bit smaller. I think it really just depends on how many beads you want to add to it or subtract. I feel that 13 was sort of the number that I used for standardizing my wrist, since I do love bracelets. I wear them a lot, and I kind of gotten a good handle on how many beads it takes to create a bracelet for myself. So I kind of just gauge the rest of what I do off of I gauge the rest of everything I do off of the one thing that I have, which is my bracelet size. So I'm flinging a few of those everywhere. So I have some extra seed beads here on the side, but I'm just going to continue this stringing up until the end. Again, you can change up the pattern however you want to. You can use different size beads. Maybe they could be sparkly bicones, or they can be all matte. Whoops, as I'm doing here. Forgot my little bead in between. I don't want to forget that for my pattern. It'd be very easy to spot with just a few of these materials anyway. I think it'd be easier to hide if I had remnant beads and kind of just strung something random up. Ah, I did it again. How funny. Okay, there we go. Almost got them on. We'll start to make our closure next, which is super easy. I love the button closure that I'm about to show you because it works for all kinds of different applications, I think. But certainly having a button on for a closure is just a really clever and smart way to use a burlesque chain, or even the capture chain should you want to use that. Okay, last one, 2, 3, and bead. Perfect. So I'm just gonna take a, so it should be about this big, but remember, because we're adding our clasp in, we're going to expand it out by 1 inch or 2, and you should have the perfect bracelet size by that point, which is again probably closer to about 7 inches, give or take. So what I'm gonna do is set this aside, and let's get our little button closure kind of worked in here. I'm going to grab my 2 little end caps, and I just want to make sure that my button's going to fit through. So what I do is I kind of just put everything out there like that, and then take a pretty good estimate and guess of how much chain I need. Luckily, the little ball chain inside of this is pretty easy to see. So you could even count it out, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and we'll just do 12 to keep it nice and even. And once you've counted it out, you could really just trim it. Okay, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alrighty. So now you can just place those into your end cap as such. Now there is going to be a couple of beads that go into your end cap. So whenever you count it out, just make sure to keep that in mind to add the extra bead or 2 of the ball chain so that you can compensate for that size if you need to. In this case, I think I should have enough to make this button clasp work pretty efficiently. Okay, so now I'll do the other side. I want to make sure that my logo side is face up on both sides there as such. And then once I've kind of gotten it nice and pushed in, I think one side was a little bit too stuck out, a little bit too much. Well, that's not too bad. I think I could work with that. Okay. We did have an even number of beads on the ball chain, so I should be all right. So yeah, I'm just going to take that and just give it a good squeeze. Make sure to tug on it to make sure nothing's going to come out. And then you can always test your button. And that's going to be a pretty good fit, I think. It's definitely not going anywhere once you have it on. And that's really the key. So now I can start to crimp everything. I'm going to place on a crimp. Okay, I'm going to add my bead cap, my end cap there, and just tighten up that crimp. Okay, that looks really good. As you can see, I don't have much wire sticking out there, and that's kind of what I want on this first end. So what I'm going to do is grab my magical crimpers, and I'm going to start to squeeze it in that singular divot first. Once I've done that, I can kind of let go and turn it on its side and then just begin to crimp around. What I love about this magical crimper process is that it turns the bead into, the crimp tube into a spacer bead. And the crimp essentially crushes on itself and forms this beautiful little ball that just looks like a spacer. And it just works beautifully into the design. If you do have a little bit of wire sticking out, you can always trim it. I think that little bit would bother me, so I'm just going to trim it right off and give it a good tug and make sure that nothing is going to come apart. Once you have that, just move on over to the other end. As you can see, our bracelet did open up quite a bit more, which is perfect because that'll fit right into there pretty beautifully. And what I'm going to need to do, I might need to grab a few more seed beads, because if I try and crimp this close to that, well, I guess it gives me two different options, right? You can leave that where it is and just make your loop a little bit bigger, which I'll show you. Or you can add seed beads onto the backside, and that'll give you a little bit of extra space. I think I should be okay with getting away with just a bigger loop, though. Actually, yeah, that'll work out perfect. So I'm just going to go with it. Okay, once I've gotten everything nice and secured. And I don't want to pull too tight. I want to make sure that this does have flexibility and bend as far as my beadwork goes. If I have it all laying flat and I pull it tight, it's not going to curve correctly. So just make sure to give it a good good curve whenever you're just before crimping all of this together. Okay. So once I've gotten that first couple steps, you just can work your plier right around, as I've been doing. Again, it'll just crush in on itself. It'll give it a good strong crimp there. And it'll look really nice once it's all finished. Okay, perfect. I'm going to now just trim this right off. And now I can get to my finishing touches. There we go. Okay, as far as finishing touches go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and just clasp this. There we go. I'm going to attach my little bee and flower to my end cap there for fun, because I like when I can add some charms and some extra something to my design. And with these Tierra cast charms, I think it's going to be over the top good. Okay, last one, and perfect. There we go. So that's what it takes to complete this bracelet. Very easy, very stylish. And again, the clasp to me is just quite innovative and fun, and a different way to use pearlescent chain than maybe just a normal jewelry chain. So let me flash over the finished photo. And I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did teaching it. If you loved this video, please give it a giant thumbs up and do subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to see more of this content. Otherwise, you can follow me on Instagram, and you can also find us in the SilverSilk Silkies Facebook group. And be sure to sign up for text notifications, because you won't want to miss out on the latest events, sales, products happening at SilverSilk, and more. Again, my name is Nilay Patel. I'm the owner, designer, and educator at SilverSilk and more. And it's always my pleasure to bring you guys fun, creative ideas using my product, SilverSilk. So until the next tutorial, keep it fun, keep inspired, and I hope that you just have a really fun time with SilverSilk and just enjoy the ride, because I certainly have been. All right, so I leave you inspired, and I'll see you next time.